no Iranian leadership will ever trust Washington. It is simply not part of their ideological worldview, and their paranoia and suspicions are probably well justified. And so our ability to create a durable process of trust is probably quite limited, and as a result, incrementalism is going to be very difficult to sustain. But the other alternative, a grand bargain, is, I think, equally quixotic, if not more so. And so what is it that we can create in between this I think, destabilizing and difficult process of incrementalism, and one that might, in fact, and the offer of a grand bargain, which is purely illusory, that might create some prospect for progress? The second big issue is red lines, and of course this gets to the question of enrichment. It gets to the debate within the U.S. political sphere, as well as the differences among potentially Washington and its allies and Washington and the rest of the P5+1. How is it that we can articulate and, more importantly, enforce very clear red lines to constrain Iran's nuclear progress? And how is it that we can get the rest of the P5+1 to buy into whatever red lines are ultimately essential from the American point of view? Third issue, I think, is deterrence. I mean, there's been a lot of threats exchanged on all sides over the course of the past 6 months. But in effect, it's not terribly clear to me that the prospect or the possibility of an Israeli strike motivates Iran to negotiate in a more serious fashion. It's arguable, I think, that it actually empowers hardliners, that it in fact provokes the Iranian regime in a way that is not terribly useful to negotiations. How is it that we can effectively deter Iran? Fourth issue is the efficacy of sanctions. We have persistently overstated expectations of sanctions. We have heard time and again about Iran's Achilles heel. First it was refined petroleum, now it is the central bank sanctions. It's not clear to me that there are low-cost, high-impact solutions to the Iranian nuclear program in an environment of robust energy demand, of growing economies. It is going to be very difficult to see much or all of Iran's 2.25 million barrels a day knocked off the market. The market has absorbed the loss of about 300,000 barrels a day over the course of the past few months, but we're talking about a much bigger magnitude potentially after July. Fifth is, how do we move beyond the nuclear issue? And I'm reminded of the fact that last time Brookings did an event on Iran here at Carnegie in cooperation with Carnegie and Woodrow Wilson, it was focused on human rights and democracy. And in fact, these are at least as essential to our differences with Iran as the nuclear program. How can the international community, given the differences on democracy and all of these issues, even among the P5+1, much less among NATO and the G8, how can we in effect put issues beyond the nuclear issue on the table with Iran?